Okay, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to the next sharing panel of Uni Research Bootcamp. And thank you for joining us here today. My name is Chung Kian, and I'm currently enrolling in the Doctor of Medicine program class of 2026.
I am in P. I major in business administrations, and I am in the class of 2024. Now I want to highlight that our guests today are very special. First and foremost, we would like to welcome our beloved Dr. Laura Vanderbloemen from the College of Health Sciences. She previously led the Imperial's research design team, which was a collaborative project led by King's College London with Queen's Mary University of London and University College London. Now she is working as an assistant professor in epidemiology and public health in Vin University. She is also leading a Vin cohort project, a longitudinal study of adults and their families of Vin Group employees in collaborations with VinMec healthcare system.
Okay, so joining Dr. Laura Vanderbloemen today, we also have many research assistants who are also working in the VIN cohort projects. And I would like to welcome Ms. Phạm Thùy Dung, Mr. Đặng Hữu Thiện, Lê Quốc Khánh, and Huỳnh Hồ Khắc Huy. They are all enrolling in the Doctor of Medicine program class of 2026. So today's event is created with the aim to provide information for students about the experience of working as a research assistant. So during the panel, if our guest speakers would want to contribute to other points or perhaps make any additional suggestions, please do so because it would help us a lot who are not quite close to experience hosting. And now please give the biggest virtual applause to our speakers, and I believe we should get it started.
Okay, so to kickstart our panel discussions, I would like to ask Dr. Laura Vanderbloemen one question. So I believe that we all recognize conducting research is never going to be straightforward, and it will take a huge amount of time and effort. I also have learned that your current Vin cohort projects is also focused on collecting data in the long term with variable implications. So would you mind sharing with us on which specific aspects of the RAs can support and contribute to the project? And can you share more about the Vin cohort project to better illustrate those aspects, maybe? Thank you.
Sure. Yes. Thanks very much for inviting us to join you today. So the VIN cohort study is a study that will be one of the first longitudinal studies of the health of Vietnamese adults. A longitudinal study is very valuable but very expensive to set up. Usually will be several $1 million project. So one of the things that we realized is that if we partner with VinMec hospital system, we can create a longitudinal research study using data that is annually collected. So we're in the process of transforming that into a longitudinal cohort study for the future. And what can the RAs do on that kind of a project? Well, like you said, it's a big project and it's a lot of work and time consuming. And sometimes you don't know exactly what's going to come when you start working. So the first part that the RAs really needed was a training. And we all agreed in the beginning that training would be necessary because in epidemiology, you need a lot of background knowledge to work. So as they are MD students, they have also expressed an interest in research, which is something they can do in parallel. It's part of the MD curriculum at Vin Uni. They learn about research in parallel to their medical training. And so as RAs, they get a little bit extra research training and also practice. So as they've become more skilled in certain areas of epidemiological research, they are able to take on tasks. One of the tasks, for example, is to be able to do literature review. So looking into background information that helps to build the scientific rationale for the study. Another thing that they've been able to work on is drawing graphs and figures. They can help with cleaning and managing the data set. And then another aspect that is really important for a big study like this, and if you look at any of the big famous cohort studies of the past, they're always going to have so a really nice media presence. And at the moment that is usually in the form of a website and social media. So those are some other things that RAs can do as a part of a big research study. Um, so uh, as I mentioned, a big cohort study like this one will require a lot of funding. And another thing that RAs have been able to help with is starting to source funds for the future. So we start to train them as well on writing research proposals that will be funded perhaps by local or international funders. So that's another thing that is very valuable skill as a researcher, is knowing how to write funding proposals. So I hope I've answered your question. Maybe you have more questions now.
Yeah, a lot. Because I never thought that being an RA is so difficult, especially like you need to know a lot of aspects and knowing a lot of skills to be involved in a lot of like process and stages of doing the research. So, did the research assistant learn all of these things in their trainings? And is that trainings available to everyone who is involved in the projects, or is that just like whoever
So
gonna be
my
responsible?
connection is not hearing your question very well.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me now?
I can't hear. It's breaking up on my side a little bit. Sorry about that.
Okay, it's fine. So I think since Dr. Laura is having a little bit trouble with her connection, so I think we should move on to the question with VRA. Thank you.
Okay, so let's turn the attention to the artist. So like regarding working as a research assistant, I think that many people talk about like building a strong relationship with the professors, earning more experience, like expecting your name to be in the publication and also earning a salary. So I'd like to ask Mr. Tian, what is your motivation or like your expectation to apply for the RA position, and do you have it fulfilled now? And also, is there anything that you did not expect from the beginning, but like you have received or earned a lot throughout the process?
Thank you, King, for your question. So I will answer your question. As first, my very big motivation is that, as you know, we are currently student, and there are a lot of things that we can explore to prepare for our future career. Like there are many things to learn. There are amazing, and there are very amazing things to learn that you will never know if you never try. So my biggest motivation is that you can learn something new, you can contribute to something meaningful. Especially like now, I am working on the Win cohort, which I found very amazing, and it means a lot for the Vietnam healthcare system. Because we are building a very a special database, which we we did not have it until now in Vietnam. Therefore, so my biggest motivation and inspiration is exploring new things and contribute to something big. And at the beginning, to be honest, I did not like expect that I can contribute to something big like this. But until now, I realized that as a student, only as a student can I contribute to something very amazing and meaningful and valuable for Vietnam. So I am very proud of to be an RA in the WinCode project.
Yes, thank you. So I also want to hear from the perspective of another RA. So Mr. Khan, could you also share the experience?
So in my experience, so for this project, this is my first project working with Dr. Laura and others. But like my experiment is not too much because I did not think too much. I just have some a little bit training to understanding about what's the research and how to we apply for the publication of a research project and how can we authorize from that. And that's also I just received a small task about like sorting the data from the other patients. So to me that's very new, but I like it because it's about a number and I like working with number and I have a chance to learn new things. So that's my experience so far.
Thank you very much for your answers. So back at Dr. Laura, because we lost the connections mid-time. So I want to ask the pop-up questions when I heard about your sharings first. So do all the research assistant who is involved in the projects receive the same training in a lot of aspects, or is it will be maybe if I am involved in the financial budgeting and proposal one, I would be trained in that specific topic? Yeah, that's just a really small pop-up question. Yeah. Professors, you are in mood. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very clear.
Okay, so that's a very good question. I think it will depend on the research project and the supervisor. But in my case, the way that we decided to do it is that because all of the MD students were coming pretty much from the same amount of research knowledge background, it seemed to me that they all needed about the same training, but with the eye to allowing them to explore the parts that interested them most, because obviously they all have different interests. And so those can be developed through research. Research has got lots of different types of things that you can do. It's a broad area. So if you're interested in media, if you're interested in data and quantitative analysis, if you're interested in qualitative research, if you're interested in writing, if you're interested in just reading and understanding, there are lots and lots of skills there. So I think my opinion was that the best thing was to let the students explore what interested them most, but also to have the exposure to all of the tasks so that sometimes it's hard to know what you're interested in until you try it. And then you see like, oh, I definitely don't like that. It's a really valuable experience in itself just to know for sure that you don't like something. And so that's kind of how we've managed it with our group. But I think that's going to be very different across different research projects.
Oh yeah, I have learned a lot actually. So move on with our next questions. I would like to add during the projects of in cohort, how do you evaluate your RAs? Maybe what would make a good RA? Is that their commitment? Is that their communicating skills? Or is it their maybe data analyzing skills? What would you seek the most out of your RAs?
Well, I think that when someone is a student, really the main purpose is for them to learn. So obviously they can contribute useful work and they learn through that work as well. But in terms of evaluating them, I think the way that we will do it is really just to say, you did this task. It was very helpful. Thank you for doing it. And let them self-evaluate a little bit, like, how do you feel about this? Did you enjoy doing it? Was it difficult? Did you learn? And then to go from there, sort of before deciding to give them the next task, to understand all of those things, and then let them choose, among the things that need to be done, what they would like to do. And I think it all has to be balanced with the fact that they're students and they have a lot of pressures on their time and concentration. So in my opinion, the RA job will always come second to their studies. And when I was an RA, when I was a student, I always had supervisors who understood that as well. Because when you're a student, you're still, especially as an undergraduate student, you're still learning how to manage your time. And so you don't really know how much time it's going to take you to study for an exam properly, do you? Because you think it might take 2 weeks, but then you realize 2 weeks in that you're not finished, right? So I think that when you're an RA, the best thing is to remember that, again, this is my opinion and different supervisors might manage it very differently, but I think that the student learning is the first priority, and then the RA job comes after that.
Well, I think the RAs here, they're really lucky to have us like a really thoughtful and caring supervisor such as you. So I think I should give Jung King the stage back to ask the questions.
Okay, so thank you. So I'd like to ask a kind of similar question to what Professor Laura have said. So, Miss Zoom, could I ask you a question that how could you balance your study time and also being a research assistant? And do you think that the workload for working as an RA is quite heavy and or not? And also, like, how could you uh, utilize the skills that you use as an RA and how you can use it in your study in the future, especially as a doctor?
Thank you, Shundian, for your very great question. Um, for me, in terms of time management and balance, my study and also my RAs and other activities, I think that in terms of like details, I think we should like prioritize tasks in different process in the day because like we only have like 24 hours a day. So some schedules are fixed, such as schools or some kind of meetings and group works. I think that I may have to prioritize that because RA eventually is also is a part-time job. It's not like my main career in terms of like living or something because like study is always it's important to students, right? So I think that the key here is like to prioritize, like to know when to do and what to do. So what I usually do is that I will plan and schedule my day prior, like 1 or 2 days before, in order like I would know exactly in a day what I need to do and what meetings I have, what tasks I have to do. Yeah. So and I also use Eisenhower matrix. I think some of you may know about it. Yeah, like it's a thing for you to prioritize like what's urgent and what's not urgent in order to like divide tasks so that you can um, work properly and solve as many tasks as possible. So um, and I also learned how to cope with stress and overload because sometimes I do have you know when things just like suddenly pop up into your schedule and you cannot control it. So you need to develop like a sense of resilience in order to like stay calm and then try to work things out instead of panicking about like so many urgent stuff that comes up. So I think it's a train and it's a skill that we can train and we can learn about, but like we have to um, reflect it after each of our experience. Yeah, so it's like a process to me.
Okay, so thank you, Ms. Zoom. So, Mr. Hui, I would like to propose a similar question. So, like, what skill set, both soft and hard skills, you think that you developed the most during the time that you were working as a research assistant? And could you help us to elaborate on how it would be beneficial for you as the study to become a doctor in the future?
So I think the skill that I learned most over the time that I work with Dr. Laura in SRI, SNRI is my communication skill. So people who knows me know that I'm not a really good communication. That's not my strength. So as working with Dr. Laura at first, I barely talk to her or my team. I just look at the camera and nodding my head. But then over time, as she she told me to be more open, and I can communicate better with her and my teammate, and also other colleague from my RA colleague. So, but and I think that the communication is one of the very key skill that a doctors require, so that we can communicate with our patient and how to inform them. So as this is probably my what I say most important and really um, what I want to learn as I join the RA. Yeah, that's it.
Yes, so thank you for your response. So now I would like to turn the attention to T, who also want to ask Dr. Laura some questions.
So to continue our discussions, I'm super curious about maybe in the journey you have seen your RAs facing some difficulties and challenges, and also we make a lot of mistakes in the journey too. So yet working in a highly academic environment is very daunting as well. So I am curious, what would be the common mistakes and maybe the difficulties and challenges that you have seen in the RAs when you're working with them, and maybe even in your own personal story back at the time when you were an RA, and especially what would be the head ups and tips that any RA should know about so that they can like avoid the mistakes and maybe overcome these mistakes maybe. Thank you.
Sure, that's a great question. So I'm not really sure if this applies, but I would say that what I don't think that the RAs that work with me have made any mistakes, so to speak, in terms of the work. They just do a really good job, and they're great students. I think it's Vin cohort is lucky to have great students working on the project. Um, but in terms of what you asked, I think there's a longer kind of arc, and you could say that. Maybe the reason that I manage the RAs the way that I do is that I believe that it's important that students understand what is really interesting to them, rather than just following what they think they're supposed to do, which can sometimes be different. Sometimes it's the same, but sometimes it's different. So it's important for them to start to know their own who they are, what really interests them, and to follow and develop and cultivate those things. In terms of, I think maybe when I was an RA, I didn't quite get that myself, because I didn't know that my own interests were actually the sort of clue to where I would, the research path that I would follow, and that was important. And that you don't necessarily have to follow what other people are interested in. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So I think that's why I like to give the students enough time to explore different types of tasks. For example, you could say, oh, my parents think that I have to do engineering, for example, and so I'm going to be an engineer. And I think that the parents usually know what's best for you. So usually you can count on that. But at the same time, within, say, engineering, there might be things that really, really interest you and things that you find kind of boring. So I think it's valuable to know what really is important to you and to follow that, to develop that over time. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I had just spotted one question from our audience. That would be, are there any different expectations from the supervisors for an RA in a work study program and one in a volunteering positions? What would be the difference in it, if there is any?
Are you asking for me or for the students?
Yeah, for for both for you and the students, if you know.
Okay. So personally, my expectations would be the same. So if you're doing as a volunteer or you're doing as paid work, I think it's the same, because you really shouldn't be on the project unless you're committed to it and you have time to dedicate to do the tasks properly. So if you're a volunteer, then perhaps your workload might be a little bit less, but I think the quality and the dedication should be the same.
Thank you for your
And I think also one of the students brought up a really important point, which is communication. So if you are, if you need to drop back on hours or commitment or any of those things, and you know how to communicate, then you can be successful in saying, I have really important things coming up, so I can't take these tasks on. And that's a sign of maturity, I think, to be able to say that.
Yeah, indeed. Learning how to say no to things is really important too, and it's a really hard thing to learn. Comparing to like saying yes to a lot of things. Uh, I'm giving the stage back to you.
Okay, so back to the question about like how to overcome the difficulty of working as a research assistant. I'd like to ask Mr. Thiet about like after the do you have a rough starting period of working as a research assistant? Like, could you share with us some aspects that you find that the most difficult to work with, and how can you manage to overcome such obstacles?
Thank you, Kim, for the question. So, regarding the difficulties when working as an RA, we are students, like we are very young children. We have many things to learn, and when it comes to working as a research assistant, we have to work with many academic works, researching, data analyzing, which I find very unfamiliar. So to me, the most difficulty is adapting. And like when it comes to my experience and when working as a fin cohort, I am working on the financial budget. Like we have to seek for financial support for the fin cohort, and I try to research for the Medical Research Council from UK, for the National Institutes of Health from the US, and they are very it requires very complex research, very hard work. But to me, I enjoy those difficulty. Like difficulties only occur when you are learning something new. So yeah.
Okay, so also, Mr. Hui, I would like to propose a similar question. So, like, do you have like beside like communication, as you have mentioned, like, do you have any difficulties? Like, do you find it difficult to analyze the data or like collect the data? And also, could you help us to walk through like how could you manage to overcome such work?
Okay, thank you for the question. So I'm currently working the same aspect as Mr. Ting right here. So I face almost pretty much the same difficulty. If he was a national research institution and mine was I had to look for different funding program, like from the Welcome Trust grant. Like they barely said anything about the funding maximum proposal funding amount of funding that you get. So we have to email them, and like I said, my communication skill is not as good. It's like I can barely talk right now. Like so I have to email some people that I don't a stranger from a different country, and he is also from a very famous funding program. So I had to write an email to them, and I had to look it back and forth so that I make sure that I make no mistake, so they don't judge our research team. And like it's very unfamiliar to me. So and but I have to overcome that. I have to talk to Ting. I have to talk to Dr. Laura about those things that I had, my communication skill, and so I really it really happened to me that I had such a great teammate and a great advisor, so that I can overcome my weaknesses.
Thank you. So for Yum, so I have been known you for a little while, and we actually are friends in real life. So I'm really curious about. Can you share with us your story of becoming an RA, especially for the Vin cohort project, and uh, maybe what would be the most memorable experience that you have learned, and maybe the lessons that you have learned during your time as an RA?
Yes, thank you, Phi. Um, I think I can share a story. It's like about the process that um, I've applied for the RA project because when applying, like, when you get interviewed into the research assistant position, you will have to overcome like an interview, right? So basically in an interview, they would probably recruiters will ask you some very basic stories, like what skills you have, like what is your strength, your weakness, and stuff like that. But but the professors that interviewed me for this position only asked me what is the grade for my biophysics midterm exam, and I'm I'm gonna be honest, it's not that high, because like I don't have a background in this field, so I have to like study everything from like from a 0 point, so it's very hard for me. But they just asked me about like how what is the score that I get, and I think and to be honest, I don't have like any other choice but to say that I do not have a great score, and then the the professor is like um, they're really curious, like how like they would ask me like how why'd you get that bad score, and like what is your hardship in studying, do you have any problems, and I'm quite surprised back then, because I think that is an interview and they're supposed to ask me about like an RA position, but then somehow it turns into like a discussion and talk about like how the school works and how this position, how the RA position will help me to like gain skills and also to improve my sense of studying and have some background in this field. And I'm kind of very grateful about that, because like they are not just like only care about like recruiting and just asking about the RA position, but I think they also care about like my personality, my hardship, and also my other interests besides the RA project. So I think that's kind of impressive. And when I got the notice that I got in, I'm not very surprised, to be honest, because I think that the professors that have interviewed me, they are the people that I want to work with, and I surely more I'm surely like be more confident when entering in this position. So yeah, like that's one of my like most memorable moment.
Thank you. So I saw Ting address that he also have a story that he want to share. So as well, can you share your stories and maybe tell us about how did you got selected as an RA?
Okay, so my story is very different from you guys. Um, I remember that in the first semester of last year, CHS they call for some positions as an RA for the CHS, but I like didn't know that. I didn't even know that, and I did not apply for a position. And I know that those who are accepted to be an RA, they got a job as an RA in the Fin cohort. And one day in the summertime, like last summer, I read a message from Mr. Khan, like he is asking that who is an RA of the FinCorp project and tell me so he can add them to the private group chat. And I was like, what is fin cohort? Like I really want to learn new things from now, and I try to email Dr. Lin, and I sent him my resume to, and I told him that I am Ting and I'm doctor of medicine, and I really want to learn something new. And I also sent him my CV. And one day I was added to the private group chat. I was like, oh my god. And I find it amazing.
I do find it amazing too. It's like seeking jobs on LinkedIn. It's like you need to have the guts and you need to have the bravery to like connect with people that you think that you are interested in. So that's a really cool like lesson to learn about too. Thank you for boosting people's on about just connect with people that you need to connect.
Yes, it's not about like applying. I can get a job like LinkedIn way.
Yeah, true. So we have a lot of questions from the comments. So there is one from Miss One. Is that what kind of fun can RAs have? Mr. Khan, would you like to share with us what are the funs that RAs have?
And so a lot of fun. First, like you can working with many people together, and then have some food, drinks. So to me, that's the funniest part. And yeah, I like to talk to with others. So when I'm working, I would like to someone next to me to chatting, to talking about other things around. So that's make me like comfortable, and then make words more interesting. That's it.
What about you, Ji Young? We would like to hear from all the RAs about the fun that RAs have.
I think the most fun is like to interact more with other faculties in our college because like we only like besides studying in class and interaction with our lecturers, I think like there are so many other cool people that they did not have lectures but they do some research and other stuff for the university, and it's really cool because like you can interact with some people but like others cannot. So yeah, and also when working as a team, I think I can get to know more about my teammates and also their skills and their interests. It gets more personal when you like talk more and share more with with specific people. So it's really interesting. Yeah, and also I really love food. So having food while meeting is really fun. Yes, I think Pian can share more. He has his favorite pastry in our last meeting.
Wow. Oh my god, that pastry is it tastes very nice. So I to be honest, I very love to discuss with you guys about the problems that we're having. Like we gather around in a table and we discuss about our problem, we discuss about our job, we discuss about what we are going to do next. Of course, coffee and pastry would be nice.
Hui, what about you? Do you have your favorite pastry?
Oh, my patient. My the fund that I got from being an RA is quite different. Like when I'm looking for the funding, you never know what you found online. One of the things that I found is many scholarship funding program that allow you to go for like a summer to do a research in other country. That I found kind of interesting. They don't limit where you're from. They are gonna look at your CV and then they might have some interview, but I think that kind of fun if I can apply to one of them and get the joy in going abroad for like a summer or something to research. That would be quite cool to be honest with you.
Indeed, indeed. So we have one more questions, really cool questions from the comments too. So, what should you really learn or focus on as a RA? Okay, would you like to share with us?
So I mean, like when it comes to work and as an RA, you will be assigned a task or many tasks from your supervisor, and of course you will have to learn from that job, and that's the main thing. But to me, from my experience, I always try to explore something new from that job. Like it's like you are given one and and you will try to learn 10. I mean that. So you should learn from that job, and you also try to learn something more apart from that job, like related to that job. I think it would be cool.
Okay, so I also want to hear from you, Mr. Khan. Could you please share about like what you should really learn or focus as an RA?
So as an RI, so the requirement for like the job is not too big. So to be so important is the real researcher. So my real focus for like how to manage my time properly between the studying and then working the RA, and then also I focus on the new things I have learned. I try to remember them because that those are very important to me to the future, my future career. So I focus on the new things I have learned, and also in the relationship with the researcher as Dr. Laura and other RAs, and yeah, also learn to manage my time properly. Yes, that's it.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Thiện and Khánh. So, Dr. Laura, I also want to ask you a similar question. Like, what do you think? Like, the RA should develop the skill. Like, which skills or like hard and soft skills do you think they should really learn or focus on while working under the research?
So I would just like to say I really like the answers that the RAs have given you so far throughout the talk, and it makes me realize that some of the tasks have more than one dimension. So obviously we want to do the research tasks, but some of the tasks will involve that they learn to do something they've never done before and actually present that to their peers, and that can be scary. It's easy to forget that once you are more experienced. So I think that's a really important lesson, is that you have to have a little bit of courage to put yourself forward. Like also Tian was saying that he went ahead and applied even though the round had already finished, and we were really happy to add him to the group. So I think you have to have that courage in the working world, and you should use it as an RA as a practicing ground, because right now, hopefully, as a student, that's the whole point, is you get to try, you can make mistakes, you can try again, you can learn from the experience, and it's all in a safe environment. So I think that the thing to focus on as an RA is to practice the world of having a job and working with other people and for other people, but also learning. I think learning is the main point right now. That's my opinion.
Thank you very much for your sharing. So we have like this one maybe is our last questions for you too. So do you have any final tips that you want to share to our listeners, and what skills should they focus on developing and sharpening as an undergraduate students who are interested in research and maybe pursuing a research career in the future?
Are you asking me for that one? Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
top
sorry.
top tips for pursuing a research career? Is that what you're saying? Top tips. Okay. So absolutely. I think one of the things that one of the RAs pointed out is that when you start to look, you'll realize there are a lot of opportunities to fund, summer research or other research experiences and projects. And if you're interested in research, I'd definitely get in contact with our team of RAs and ask them, for their advice and what they found. And, kind of, you can always apply for things together. You can go together. I think that type of thing is a really good idea. But in terms of research, if you're really interested in research as a career, there are lots and lots of opportunities out there for you to do that. At the same time, I think, again, I said this already, be true to yourself. If you like the world of research, but you don't like doing research, you might want to do research because you think it's valuable to society, as opposed to because you're really interested in research. And in that case, you can do other things that are associated with research, like being part of the media team or fundraising for research projects to get done, or those types of things. So there is a huge world of research, and I would say just throw yourself in and try things. That would be my advice, because if you really want to do a research career, it's absolutely an open space for students to go to.
Thank you so much for your answers. So I would like to thank Dr. Laura and all of the research assistant for joining us today morning. And we are really, really grateful for the time and effort that you took to share your thoughts and experiences with the student community here. And I believe that we all have an overview of how to become a research assistant, what you will do, and how much we can be benefit from the experience, and especially be really brave to connect to your network and to join and try new things from Ting and also Dr. Laura. And thanks again for a truly memorable morning. And we hope that you can join us again. Thank you very much for your sharing today.
Thanks, everyone. Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, of course, of
I
course.
think if there are students at VinUni who are interested in research experiences and they haven't had any experience so far, I would say that one of the tasks that our RA team has to take on the responsibility of helping them. So you can get in touch with me, you can get in touch with them if you want to ask more questions in detail.
For sure. So the students, please note down what you need to do. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
yeah, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And also for the people, the participants, our next event will be announced here. And also, please stay a little bit for this magic code. So the magic code is great assistance. And our next event will be the citations management and copyright at 1 p.m. with Professor Dan. So please enjoy our next events and hope you enjoy today's session. Thank you.